There we go. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Quick introductions before we jump in for everybody who is viewing. Welcome. My name is Coach Lori Lee Lown. I'm part of the Team Wilpers coaching staff. And with me today is Chris Finley Miller. I almost called you Miller Finley. Who actually just had her birthday. And I thought, oh, she'd be a great guest, has been kind of the Wizard of Oz behind another Wizard of Oz, right? Riley was that. The person who has kept our Facebook and our social group alive over a number of years. How long have you been doing this, Chris?
I think it's almost 2 years, 2.5 years. It's hard to remember exactly. Probably two,
Yeah.
yeah, probably 2.5, I'm gonna say.
I had a conversation yesterday with one of my clients and we were talking about, when things were happening in her history. And she said, well, it might have been 5 years. And she's like, oh no, yeah, COVID. It was 8 years.
Right.
It was like there's a big difference there.
Exactly. It's hard to know. Time is just flying along. I have no idea how we got to June 19th. I have
I
no idea
know.
how we're halfway through this year already.
Isn't it crazy? And today is a holiday in California, which I realized because I went to the gym this morning. So, warning, I'm amped up. I did my strength training this morning and had a whole new routine, which is very interesting and different. And I feel totally stoked about it.
Good.
But there was no traffic. I always ride my e-bike to go to the gym because it's faster than driving. And there was no one on the road. I was like, what happened? Did I miss
Oh,
something in the news? I didn't watch the news
oh,
this morning.
right,
And then I
right.
realized it's a holiday for most
Oh,
of the
that's
world,
funny.
but or
Yeah,
at least
that's
in our
funny.
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I asked Chris to come on. We're going to talk about a couple of things today, but I want her to start by tell us your story, Chris.
So my story, I guess I have a long story, but I'll start with my
That's
Peloton
okay.
story, right?
Yeah.
So I think that I got my Peloton because I went to visit a friend of mine who, a longtime friend, and her husband at the time was 60 years old. And I'd known them a long time, but I hadn't seen them in a long time. And when I got there, he looked, he was super fit, super robust. I was like, wow, what you look great. What's the story? And he said, they told me that we bought a Peloton. We bought a Peloton
Yeah.
bike and we ride it every day. And I'm telling you, he was always a big guy. And now he was like a lean, mean, muscular, fit
Machine.
70-year-old. And it was amazing. And my husband and I had been looking at Pelotons. We had gone to the bike shop. We had gone to the shop and looked at it, and it seemed intimidating with the shoes and and the whole thing. And I thought, oh, I was a little intimidated, so we didn't do it then. But then once I saw my friend, I went home and I ordered the bike, and it was, at the house the next day. And I tell this story to people a lot because when I got on the bike the first time, and so I got it because one, he was inspiring to me, but two, I was at a place from in my own health where I wasn't happy. I was significantly overweight. I had a busy life, a busy job, a big commute, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of traveling. My kids were at that time 11 to 20 years old or something,
It's a lot of work.
nine to, and taking care of yourself and prioritizing myself, that wasn't where my focus was, frankly. And
Mhm.
I think I got into this place where I'm like, I have to do better. I have to get to a healthier place. I was in my early 50s at that point. I thought, it's not going to get any better from here unless you do something about it, right? So after I visited my friend, I went home and I ordered the bike and I got on a ride. I took a beginner ride and I literally thought my heart was going to explode.
Right.
I was, wow, this is hard. And I'm like, is this safe for me to do? I don't know if this is even
Right.
safe for me to do, just because of like how hard I was working.
Right.
And when I look back at what the output was at that point and like how hard I was working, obviously I had a long way to go. But I'm somebody who likes a plan, likes to have, I don't like randomness.
Hmm.
And like, again, I didn't want to hurt myself. And I thought this doesn't seem like the right way to go. And I was really out there trying to figure out how to get into this in a in a sustainable way. And I found Christine had those heart rate zone classes. So I thought, okay,
Oh
this
yeah.
sounds like a better idea, which then led me into, I found Power Zone, and then I found the Power Zone pack. And then I found, Matt, and I was like, okay, this makes sense, right? This makes sense. It meets me where I am. I can progress. And what the Power Zone pack gave me then was a plan, like a training plan to follow. And it gave me a group of people and a group of a team to work with who and I loved my team 25. They were my people. I love them, and we really, I think that really took off.
Right.
That's where it really got it. And then I think it was probably the next summer. So I got it in summer of 19. And the next summer, my husband gave me a bike for my birthday, an outdoor bike. And I was like, what am I going to do with this thing? But
it is a gateway drug, right?
Right. It was a gateway. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this. And this was during COVID, right? So there was bikes were scarce. They were hard to come by. And so he got me a bike. I didn't know what to do with that, but I started riding around. I don't know. It was fun. And then, I'm sorry, I'm talking a long time, but then.
No, you should.
But then my, at work in January, they put out a note that said, we're going to do the Bridge to Beach ride. We're going to have a Dow team, and we're going to, it starts on the Ben Franklin Bridge in Philadelphia and ride down to Atlantic City. Whoa. Mind you, I had taken like I don't know, I took the bike out 5 times, rode around the block or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I signed up. I just signed up. It's a 70-mile ride. I'm like, I'm going to do that.
And that's in one day.
One day. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? 2 states.
2 states over a bridge. Right. And I thought, I've got to figure out how to do this. And then I did the Peloton, and I won a raffle prize. Oh, and the raffle was a coaching with Greg Wagoner, who was with Team Wilpers. So I won this like consult with Greg, and then I started private coaching with him. He was my private coach, and then there we are. And then
and somehow you got roped into taking care of our Facebook group, which is great.
Well, right. So Greg he was starting that. He's like, hey, you should come over here and see what we're doing. And he was like I said, I don't like randomness. And I'm like, Greg, we need to bring some order to this. Can I help you? And he said, yes, please. So here I am.
Well, I will say as a coach, you're focused on coaching, but you're also probably a business person, right? So you not only are you doing your content of what you do for your job, but you also have to run a business, and it means marketing and accounting and everything else. And people don't realize that. And I always think, if I could just coach and do none of the rest of that, that would be great. My own social media is terrible now. I used to put a lot of effort into it, and things changed. But I love your story about your first ride, though, because when I started riding as an adult in the late 90s, I had a very similar experience, except it was on an outdoor bike. And I remember doing doing an outdoor ride and going over a very small bridge. It's like a highway overpass. And I felt the same way, like my heart was going to explode. And as I continued to train, I always felt that way because I wasn't strong from a cardiovascular point of view. And I always felt like I was going to die. I'd see stars.
And sadly, on top of this bridge.
Yeah. And I was afraid of going uphill, and I was afraid of going downhill, and I was afraid of riding off the side of the road, and I was afraid of getting lost. I was afraid of everything. And luckily I was stubborn and kept at it, and found my people, right? I think that's important, is find that team that can support you, and find people you can train with and be accountable to. And, spin classes came next for me after riding outside as a way to train. And, because, in the winter back then, we didn't have Zwift, we didn't have Peloton, we went to the gym.
Right.
And then that led eventually to teaching spin and coaching. So yeah, very similar story there.
It's amazing. That's really an amazing story, to feel like you're out there riding your bike outside and afraid of all those things. And now look at all the inspiration and the coaching and the guidance that you're giving to hundreds of people. Yeah.
Well, and it didn't take me very long. I had only been riding a couple of years when I decided to throw my hat in the ring and start coaching. So I'm one of those people. But I also got laid off from Charles Schwab when the bubble burst, and it was like, well, what can I do
Mm-hmm.
now? And that
Mm-hmm.
was my
Mm-hmm.
goal. I wanted to give people the experience I'd had. It
Yeah.
changed my life to ride a bike. I was successful, and it made me a better person and improved my self-esteem. And yeah, I was like, how can I give that to people?
So can I just, I know I'm interested to know your story though about how you made that leap. Was there a lot of training that you, like
Mhm.
you had to learn a lot, right? There's a lot of
I did.
science and technical, and you're a bike fitter, so there's a lot that you had to
Hmm.
learn.
Yeah.
How did you
And
do that?
it was a different world then too. It
Mm,
was education was in person. There wasn't
right.
really much online education except like I had finished my MBA and I had done that with some virtual classes, not even virtual classes, like you watched a recorded class and then sent in via email your assignments. But yeah, everything was in person. So I had been riding a couple of years and I got laid off.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get an interview to save my
Mm,
life because I was project managing and Silicon Valley kind of imploded
mm,
and there were no projects. So
mm.
I had an educational grant as part of my severance. And I just by chance found this program in personal fitness training. It's a California certificate. So it's 30 credits, half an associate's degree, basically.
Okay.
And I thought, well, I can't get a job. I might as well do this. And then I also did a project management certificate through Berkeley. So I was at a junior college doing fitness classes basically, and it was a very good curriculum, and it included a couple of internships. And at some point in that process, I had decided I really didn't want to be a trainer because you have to count. I always lose count, right? 10, 12, whatever, one
Where
more
are we?
mile.
Right.
I know.
Right.
Yeah. And, but I wanted to be a coach. And in the 90s and the early 2000s, coaches kind of did it all. You didn't
Mm,
specialize. And there
mm.
weren't very many coaches in the US. There were, I think when I got my coach license, there were like 280 in the entire US. And of those, 18 or 19 were women. And most of them had been pros. So
Oh,
there were
wow.
very
Okay.
few people like me
Yeah.
who came from the side of being a recreational rider. And,
Right.
but I had a teaching background because I
Okay.
taught throughout my
Oh, okay.
career with Girl Scouts and the Red Cross. And I taught at Syracuse University and I taught at Schwab when I was there. So I wanted to kind of pair those things together, the teaching and the fitness. And yeah, I did everything when I started. I mean, you have to if you want to
Sure.
figure out what you're going to do and pay your bills. And so I was fitting. And so, in addition to the California certificate I had, I took a ton of week-long classes at USA Cycling, which is in
Okay.
Colorado Springs, where Jeff Heim lives, which is the national sanctioning body of bike racing in the United States. And they had a very robust coaching education program at the time. And so I went and took a bike fit and biomechanics class for a week. And I
Nice.
took a strength training class for a week. And I took all these coaching certifications. And then over the years, I've also gotten bike fit certifications from a number of organizations and
Hmm.
also other coaching and power based training certifications as well. So I have a lot of letters after my name if I
That's
wanted to
great.
put them somewhere.
That's great. I think it
Yeah.
shows, how much work and time and effort and energy
Oh
goes
yeah.
into, designing, and then you use that to design these programs and make sure that
Right.
people that we're doing following a good path, right?
Right. And that's the key, I think, with Team Wilpers is what we try to do is provide some actual coaching and some science.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
we're not just, picking and creating a to-do list. We're creating a periodized program that should hit all your areas of fitness. So,
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is actually harder, I think, than writing your own training. So if I coach my clients, I'm developing their workouts. Now I'm trying to curate a program out of workouts someone else developed.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time it works pretty well. Every once in a while, because it's very hard to preview every class and know the whole class plan.
Sure.
Every once in a while, I'm like, that probably wasn't the best choice, but in general, it works out pretty well.
Yeah. It
So
all
it's been
evens
good.
out, right? It all evens out. It's
It
never just about
does.
one thing, right? It's never just about one thing, one class or one
Right.
hill, right?
And that's a very important concept as well. I was thinking the other one that you had mentioned was you never know who's going to inspire you. I always think
Right.
about that. I had that conversation this morning with my strength coach. It could be anybody, like your friend or a person at the grocery store. Or there's a woman I observe at the gym who works out the same time I do, and she does strength training, and she's
Mm-hmm.
got to be 80. And she is so focused on her training, and she's an inspiration to me. I'm like, man, I want to be doing that when I'm 80. So
I feel the same way. I was in the gym. I've been in the gym more, and I see women who are in their 70s and 80s. And in fact, I just said this very thing to my daughter, who's 21. I said, I see these women. I'm like, that's who I want to be when I'm
yeah,
80. I want to be,
right.
I want to be doing that when I'm 80.
Yeah. So, well, let's think about this. You just had your birthday. You turned
I
59.
did
And I'm going to
59.
turn 60 in a month. And
Yeah.
I'm like, 60 is old. When you said your friend was 60, I was like, yeah, that's old. It's not old.
No,
It's
he was
us.
70. He was 70.
Yeah. That's
70.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. And that's what I think is daunting to me about 60. I'm like, after that, it's 70. 70 is old. So, okay, Lori, you got to keep working
Yeah.
on these things. So what do you do differently now than you did 10 years ago?
I do a lot differently now than I did
Yeah.
10 years ago. I think, being active. And so when I think about when I got my bike, I think like a lot of people maybe who buy a Peloton at the beginning, there's a certain amount of people who maybe are into cycling and want to be better cyclists. There's probably a
Mm-hmm.
fair number of people who were like me, who
Mm-hmm.
was looking for a way to get in better shape and AKA lose weight. I wanted to
Oh, yeah.
lose weight, right? And so that was my motivator behind getting the Peloton. And then the sort of this discovery of it was a gateway to all
Mm-hmm.
other kinds of things, and
Yeah.
the benefits of being physically active, the all of the things. So now, instead of maybe just, okay, I'm just going to relax tonight,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a 90-minute bike ride. It could be
Right.
a 30-minute walk outside, right? But being active, being being physically active, and I've so the from the bike now I have, I do bike obviously quite a bit, but I have the rower, I walk outside, and now like I'm really building in on the strength training, because everything you read is about the importance of strength training, especially for women, especially as you get
Mm-hmm.
older, and all these things. So, lift heavy. And so I've really here lately been, look at you, look at that, look at that. Good job.
I found muscles I didn't know. I'm like, oh, there's muscles there and there. And
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't have that yet, but but really, so the benefits of being physically active and being intentional about it is something that's very much part of my life now over these 6 years. The strength training being something that I enjoy, and I'm
Mhm.
definitely. I have to tell you, folks, if you haven't logged and used the Peloton Strength Plus app, I really recommend it. I had it on my phone for a couple of probably 6 months before I even opened it. It's tremendous. I have always been a little intimidated in going to the gym, again, because I want to have a program. I want to know what I'm
Right.
doing. I hate
Mhm.
just going to the gym and wandering around and picking up different things. So this Peloton Strength Plus app has great programs built in, and it's very logical, and it's not a class that you have to follow. It's you follow along, you add your weight. I am really loving it. So if you haven't
That's awesome.
tried that, I really recommend it, especially if you like the idea of, and you can use it in your home basement too. Like if you've got free weights,
Mhm.
there's all different kinds of things in it. It's very but it's an excellent app. So I'm really enjoying that right now
Mhm.
too. So
That's awesome. I
yeah.
work with a strength coach for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
I had not gone back to the gym since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I will admit that I was always kind of here and there with strength. Um, and so I started consistently working with a strength coach in September. And I hired a
Mm-hmm.
strength coach, even though I could do it myself or use the Peloton app. And I have
Mm-hmm.
all the weights and things here,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not motivated for it. A lot of endurance athletes are not motivated to do strength, but I needed it.
Right.
I knew I needed it. I felt like I was aging and I didn't like how I was aging and I was not
Right.
strong. And
Right.
I can do things now. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy that I can do all these things that I couldn't do before. And
Yeah.
like even the simple functional things like opening jars or standing up without using my hands, right? Or all these
All of
things.
those things are so important, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and so what's motivating? I am one of these blue dot chasers on my Peloton
Yeah.
app, right? I like my blue dot. I like to have my streaks. And on the strength app, it tracks your progress. So it gives you a PR for your bicep curl.
Right.
It'll give you a PR or tell you your total weight. So, if that's the kind of thing that motivates, I like it. I like my blue dot. I
Yeah.
like it. So
That's good.
yeah, whatever works, right? Whatever
It
works.
does. It does. And I do, I have accountability because I'm paying this woman a lot of money. She's worth every penny, but it's like, okay, I need to go to my sessions. And then
Exactly.
she writes me a program the other days, and I want to be accountable to her. I respect her, and I feel like doing my training that she developed for me is respect. So I do it.
Exactly.
And it takes a while before you see a result, and it's sometimes you switch things up. Last week she had me doing single-legged dumbbell or no kettlebell deadlifts. My glutes the next 2 days were like on fire. I was like, whoa, it's hard. You look like one of those beaker.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. I know it. I know exactly what you're saying. Right. That's great.
Yeah. And I have these janky hips, so doing anything single-legged is hard. Today we did Bulgarian split squats, and I was like, oh, I did it. I did them. That was good. But yeah, I'm like, wow, I like that feeling, but not all the time. In the beginning, you feel that way all the time. So
right. And the other thing about going to the gym is like you think, oh, I look awkward or whatever. No one's looking at you. Everybody's just worrying about themselves, right?
Yeah.
Aside from like occasionally like looking over and seeing like, wow, look at that 80-year-old lady killing it, right? Rocking it, right?
Right. So as we age, one of the things, I mean, I can tell you because I'm much older than you by a year. But, at 50, I started seeing these changes that probably were occurring since I was 40, but I didn't really notice them because I had other distractions. And some of the things that changed for me, body composition, right? So it was much harder to maintain muscle mass, much easier to gain fat mass. Nutrition became so much more important, not just like counting calories, but looking at macros and getting enough of the right mix of things in order to, carbohydrate to do my cardio exercise and protein to recover from my strength. Sleep has changed. I've had to, and as we age, it's one of the things that we lose is our sleep. And I had to really focus on getting enough sleep because that's with recovery. What has changed for you?
I will admit to being have traditionally been, I would say, a terrible eater. I think that my family, we ate out a lot. We had a lot of take-in, and over the past couple of years, and I've not been a very good cook, but over the past 3 years, I'm really learning to cook and really enjoying cooking. I make my own bread. I make my own sourdough bread, right? So I'm
nice.
So I got a new kitchen. So now I have to use the kitchen, right? It's so I'm cooking a lot. I'm eating a lot better inside. I'm definitely focused on more protein, better, more healthy fruits and vegetables, less on the carbs. Really have gotten away from snacking and snacking on bad. I know. I hate on food that's not productive, right? Like, try to. I can have a piece of chocolate, but I'm not going to, go and buy a bag of M&Ms or, So just eating better. I'm eating better, and I feel better for eating better. And there's that. And I am sleeping better. I have to tell you, I am in the past couple months, 6-7 months, I am sleeping better than I have ever slept. I wake up, when I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I have slept all night, it's like amazing.
Yeah.
A couple of things I'm doing there is I am cutting off. I don't eat after 8 o'clock at night.
That's huge.
So I just stop eating because I've read things about when you wake up, that's kind of like a blood sugar crash from eating maybe that your body's still digesting. So
it wakes you up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So I've stopped eating after 8. That's made a huge difference.
And it's really important for women because we have a slower gastric emptying rate. So we digest slower than men do. Yeah.
I think that's been a big thing. And I also, Instagram made me buy this salt spray, magnesium salt spray. I don't know if it's doing anything. All I know is with eating less at stopping at 8 and this magnesium spray, I'm literally sleeping all night.
Do you spray it on your body?
On my feet. It says spray on your feet and your legs. Yeah.
Oh, that must feel great.
Rub it on the inside of your
Yeah.
on your feet. Yeah.
I did
I'll
magnesium.
post a
I
link.
did a magnesium oil. Yeah. For years. And then I have other supplements that I use for magnesium now. And one of them is, the timing of things is really important. And magnesium is one of those that the timing in the evening helps us sleep.
Right.
The other things I do, because I lost my sleep for about a year in my early 50s, and I've had to work really hard at it. I moved to the beach.
Oh,
So it's
that's nice.
colder, right? It's not
Right.
hot at night. And I actually do keep my AC at, 68.
I
And
sleep
that
very
helps me
cold.
sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a little conflict with my ex there because, and he was a skinny guy with lots of muscle. And I was like, you can put clothes on. I can't take any more off. But I solved that. I left him and I moved to the beach.
There was a moment in the winter when like I really turned the heat down low and my daughter's at school, so like it's usually me just and in the morning she was home for Christmas break and she's like, so it was really cold last night. So I was like, oh,
we had that problem too. Our
okay,
kids
I'll turn the heat up a little bit.
And I was like, well, couldn't we put a heater in their room? Yeah. The other thing I did is I started sleeping in a silk eye mask. So I have
an eye mask. That's the other thing. Yes.
So I don't get disturbed by all the lights. And here at the beach, if it's a foggy night and the lights from town will make it glow, so it's actually kind of bright outside. So that's how it started. And then I have these sleep buds that I listen to this ambient sound. And right now I'm listening to the ocean, which I could just open my window, I guess, and listen to the ocean. But there's other sounds out there too. And this is great. It just puts me right to sleep, and I sleep pretty solidly. Yeah, so it's
we're twinning. We are twinning in the sleep department. I do. Those are the things too. I forgot about the eye mask.
Yeah,
that's been a huge game changer.
Yeah. Now the cat, on the other hand, has not been a positive because she likes to, in the middle of the night, she'll jump up and jump over me, and then jump over me again and jump over. And I'm like, no, go back to sleep, baby.
Time for sleep. Sleepy time.
Exactly. I wanted to talk about one other thing and something you had mentioned. So when I invited you to come chat with me, one of your suggestions was, let's talk about mental health. And I think that is a hugely important part of fitness. And I think it can swing all ways, right? So I wrote a note here that said the good, the bad, and the ugly. Tell me about your mental health and how exercise impacted that.
I would say the first time I really understood the benefit of physical exercise for mental health was through COVID. So, I got my bike in August, and then COVID happened in March, and it was a really difficult time for everybody. Work was really busy. And I would get up every morning and do a bike ride, do my Peloton ride. And I knew that on the mornings that I didn't do a ride, that day was rougher. That was a rough day. I don't think I was as clear or focused, or like things just kind of bothered me a little bit more. So I had already established a really strong habit and a really strong routine. And then in 2022, I had a really terrible time in 2022. My husband unexpectedly died in March. And then I lost my dad. Thank you. And then I lost my dad 6 weeks later. Oh. And so that was a really, really, as you can imagine, a really hard time. And I found through my team and through like knowing, like through that period of time, that getting on the bike, even if you're not hitting the numbers, just to spend that time and get your heart beating and focus on something else. It just helped me not get sort of sucked down into my grief, right? It kind of gave me an outlet, and not that it cured my grief, but it certainly helped. It helped me. I don't know how to say it other than it helped me.
No,
right.
There's definitely a physiological, but also a psychological effect to exercise, and keeping a routine and being, so the routine that you had before, so it feels normalized, and being surrounded by people who are doing the same thing. And there's actually a lot of content on, I don't know if you chose any of the content that typically or that was mental health type content. There's grieving classes, and there's all kinds of content there as well. And they're not in the Power Zone world mostly, but Christine's
Yeah.
always emo. She's a good one to
Well,
ride
see,
with when you
I
need
don't
to.
need I didn't need to cry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
got on there not because I
You
didn't
needed to
want to
not
cry. I
cry.
needed to just feel like positive, and not to hide from it, but I needed to be able to feel like I accomplished something. And doing a hard ride and completing a hard ride, even a hard ride where you're really like working and like, I can do hard things. Remind you,
Right.
I can do hard things. This is a hard thing that I'm experiencing, but this little ride helps me. But you can do
Yeah.
this. You are going to
Yeah.
be like, you know what I mean? So it was very much a part, and still is, I think, a big part of helping me as I'm like, 3 years. It's 3
Yeah.
years, and it seems like, oh, it's 3 years, but like it's 3 minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's all part of it. And I think that you feel, and you feel, helps you feel stronger, helps you feel in control, gives you something that you can feel like when there's a lot that you feel like you can't control. This gives me something I can control.
Right.
And and be positive and be productive. So
And it's a
that's,
much healthier outlet than other things that we could do when we're stressed, like drink alcohol or eat
well,
chocolate or
that's
whatever.
exactly right. That's the other
Yeah.
thing, right? There's lots of other avenues to
For
help
coping.
for coping. And that was, and of all the coping things that
Yeah.
you could do, this I think was a pretty good one.
Right. Right.
So
I
yeah.
absolutely agree. I've often said exercise is my addiction, and I'm an addict. Right. I, have been on this mental health journey the last couple of years and learning about all of this. And addiction was just one aspect of what else goes on in
Right.
my chemistry, my brain. And I was a smoker and I was a drinker and I am sober. And so my Power Zone team was the sober squad. I still hang out
Oh,
with them
nice.
because
Yeah.
I love them. They high five everybody. So,
Right.
yeah, they love passing all the people on the leaderboard with wine and whiskey and beer in their name. But
Exactly.
right, pedal
Yeah.
for vino.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, that exercise was what got me through those transitions. Quitting an addiction is not easy,
No.
and you need support in different ways. And for me, yes, exercise became an addiction. That can also be a bad thing.
Right.
And it's one of the things I've been struggling with the past couple of years.
Mhm.
But it really hit a head last spring or last summer around August. I had been training last year for nationals and
Oh,
in gravel racing. And it was very intense. For someone my age to train 20 hours a week is a lot.
it's a lot, right?
And yeah, and it's stress, it's physical stress. And I
Mhm.
also had emotional stress going on.
Mhm.
And putting the two of them together doesn't work all that well. And I found by August, I didn't want to get on my bike. But I had to because I had a
Mhm.
coach and I had
Mhm.
this race in September that I had to do. And September came and went. And I was like, what's next? And my coach was like, well, why don't you just ride when you want to? And I was like, I can't do that. I have to have a program. And then I didn't ride.
Right.
And I didn't want to ride and took a little break there and did other things. That's when I hired my strength coach, and
Right.
I had started running again, and that got side railed by my sad knee. But then I was back in a program again, right, in
Right.
November, and everything was great. And I went to Majorca, and I went and raced in Arkansas. And about 2 months ago, everything hit the fan, and I realized that the stress of exercise was not complementing the stress in my life. And it was actually hurting me at this point. It was hard. I didn't need hard right now. I've been doing hard for
Right.
25, almost
Right.
30 years.
Right.
Yeah. And I made a very conscious decision to stop riding my bike.
Mhm.
And I ride about once a week. And usually because I have to for work, but I've been doing some
Right.
social rides instead of
Right.
training rides, which was a hard decision because my fitness at the end of April was popping. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I've watched my chronic training load go from, over 100 down. Now it's
Yeah.
probably at 30 or so.
Right.
But I was lifting and I was riding my e-bike and, to get around town. And I
Right.
was walking at least once every day and hiking. And all of a sudden I'm starting to feel ready again. I was like, a matter of fact, I have a little time this afternoon. I was like, maybe you should go ride your bike
Right.
and do it for fun. And I'd told myself, okay, July, you'll get back. But
Right.
maybe I'll go today.
Right.
We'll see. So
Right.
you also have to recognize that it can be a stressor. And yeah.
I agree. And I'll be honest, I think you and I were kind of in the same unknowingly, maybe in the same kind of loop, because I also took a break last summer from the intense training because it had been
Mm-hmm.
6 years of really solidly training and all of these like rides and all of this. And I too rejoined in November and
Yeah.
got into like I was like, oh my gosh, look at me. I'm like, and my numbers are not where they were,
Right.
and I don't know if I'll ever get back to that number where I was in March of 2022. I'm not sure I ever
Yeah.
will. But the thing is, like, I keep going back to what is my goal? And
Right.
my goal is about longevity. It's about being
Mm-hmm.
healthy. It's about, being well balanced. And so if that means I'm not going to race in the Tour de France, or I'm not going to, I'm not
I'm
going to do,
sorry. You're not going to race in
I'm
the Tour
not, no,
de
definitely not. Or I'm not going to do the 100 miles on my bridge to bike ride next
Right.
summer, right? I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for a nice 70 ride, right? Like that,
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to do. What is it you're trying to do? And that's where I'm like, okay, so now I know, like I since I'm still working, I can't do an hour bike ride and do an hour in the gym like that. I just don't have that kind of time. So it's trying to
Yep.
find that balance
Mm-hmm.
and it's only fun. You're only going to stick with it if it's fun, right? If it's
Right.
enjoyable, right?
And when it becomes work, then you won't do it.
When it becomes work, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's to be too hard, and you're like dreading it, like,
And it's
look, we all
interesting
can dread it
because
too, from
the
a
one
tight,
nice
yeah,
thing I
yeah.
can say as a coach is I know I will never go back to zero. I have
No,
almost 30 years of
yeah,
endurance training under my belt. I will not go back to zero. And I think that's one of the big challenges. We'll loop this back around to Peloton, which is, the Blue Dot Club.
right,
You got
right,
to get your blue dot. Oh, more is better. I often will say more is not better, more is more. And
right,
sometimes less is more,
right.
less is better. And that's what I was feeling. And I know that when I get back on the bike, give me 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, and my fitness will be back pretty much where it was. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I can rebuild it because I've rebuilt it many times.
Right.
And I would say to our Peloton folks as well, don't be afraid to take the day off. Don't be afraid to take a break if you need. If you need to sit out a challenge because summer is going to be challenging enough for you
Right.
with your kids, it's okay.
Or
Do
you just
what
want to
makes
play
you feel good.
pickleball. You
I
just want to go
know,
play
right?
pickleball, right?
Just watch your
That's the
knees.
thing, right? Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah,
Wear
I
the
know.
right shoes.
Well, and that was the other thing for me is I observed last year. So I'm on this app called Strava, which is a social media network for athletes, and it uploads your activities, and you can load photos and videos and things. And I always post a photo. And last year, almost all my photos were selfies. I didn't ride with anyone
Mm,
because I was training for this big, hairy goal, right? And my training didn't fit into group rides. And so the only riding I'm doing right now is when I'm teaching on the bike, or I went out last week and did a gravel ride called Anything But Lycra, which is great. And you show up in a t-shirt and shorts and,
oh, funny.
it's chill. Yeah.
Right.
They have themes that I've worn flannel shirts, I've worn
Oh,
tie-dye.
funny.
Yeah. And I'm doing a women's mountain bike ride this weekend just as a social activity.
Right.
And yeah, I have enough fitness to pull it out. I'm
Yeah.
probably not going to feel great, but
You were
I
just
can
in
do it.
Mallorca. It wasn't that long
I
ago,
know.
right?
I know. And that's the other thing. It feels long ago. And I always worry about that slippery slope. Oh, if I've been going to the farmer's market, I've been doing things I never did because I was always busy riding my bike. And I'm like, okay, let's make sure you got to go back there at some point because it's your
Right.
job and you love it. It
Right.
brings me
Right.
joy. So
Right.
at the end of the day,
Exactly.
we should do more of the things that bring us joy.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's that part of it's there's a season for everything, right? And there's seasons you often hear Matt talk about seasonality and
Yes.
training and in the winter about building strength and building
Mm-hmm.
that endurance, right? And then summer is, well, it's about as getting out there and doing it, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
and there's a season for pickleball and there's a season for bike riding.
There is. I'm going to wrap this up. I got a few more notes. My notes are over here. I'm sorry if I'm not looking at the camera. A couple shout outs. Cheryl, welcome back. Cheryl Voutour had a spinal injury 7 months ago, and she is getting back to her fitness and posted about that this week. And I'm really happy for her. And Alex T. Lewis Sr., you shared a great ride video with us this week. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate all the videos and the photos, especially those great outdoor rides. And Jessica Holloway, I did not respond to your post yet because it's been a week. I'm trying not to be on social media. But I do want to say, get the gravel bike. You won't regret it. I promise. You'll learn how to clip in and out, and I can give you some tips. So, right? Did you regret the bike once you got
I did not regret the
educated
bike.
in how to ride the bike? Yeah.
I did not regret the bike. And the first pedals I had were the flat pedals, so I didn't clip in. And then Greg was like, all right, let's go. And
It's time.
you figure it out pretty quick, you figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah. So anyways, we're going into the final week of our climb challenge. This morning I was writing my notes, and I almost, because I'm in the process of writing our next challenge, which we'll talk about in a second, and I almost wrote the wrong challenge. Anyways, this is going to be a great week. It's going to be slightly hard week, and it's going to have the same rhythm as we've had. So we've got a power zone, we've got a power zone endurance, power zone max on Saturday. That will be your chance to do the power profile ride again. And I would say, ignore the cues, ride it hard, right? So we want to do the efforts, but if you're feeling that you can ride something harder than the zone that's being prescribed, go for it. This will be your chance to go back to your benchmark and compare what you've done in these short durations. And then I would say, oh, and Sunday, you got a good, nice long ride coming up. So a nice 90-minute power zone endurance ride to finish the challenge. What else? The next challenge starts July 14th. It will be a power profile. So we're going, oh, wait a minute. We're doing the climb. Sorry. See, I did that. So Saturday, you're doing Alpe d'Huez with Christian Vandevelde. And again, ride it at your own. See, I'm thinking power profile all the time now because I'm trying to mix things up and make it exciting. So the next challenge is going to be a sprint challenge, and we're going to work on our power profile. So we'll work on our short duration power versus long duration power. And I would say, schedule an FTP test for yourself in the 2-week break between. I think registration will probably open the last week of this challenge, maybe this coming week. So they never tell me these things, but
check your
I think
email.
So. Exactly. Right? You'll
check
get an email. If you are interested in some structure to take your FTP test, there's a 1-week FTP test prep program in All Access under Team Wilpers. So check that out. And that's about it. We know all the other basics. Join your group, post in the chat, use the hashtag, all that stuff. So
take your FTP.
Like
take your FTP. We can do hard things. We can do it. It's okay. It doesn't matter. Whatever the number is, the number is. It's okay.
Exactly. It's not judgment. And I noticed that Christian Vandevelde just dropped a whole FTP series. So he's got a test now. So maybe you want to mix it up and check out what he's got to say. So,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a cyclist crush on him. So, he's a good guy. Anything to wrap, Christine?
No, Lori, thanks for the time, and thanks for all you do. Awesome. I know it's a lot to manage the team on top of everything else that you do in your day-to-day life. So thanks for all your good guidance and your encouragement and just You're being welcome. You. Thank you.
Well, and I couldn't do it without you and our group leads. So I really appreciate all of you who volunteer your time to keep things going. So and that's that.
That's that.
We're going to wrap.
Thank you.
Bye,
everybody.